Welcome to Australia's Pioneering Saints, true stories from the earliest days of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Australia. Today's episode, Wilted Flowers. The story of the Restoration in Australia doesn't begin in the busy streets of Sydney. It begins more than 200 miles inland in the hills around Wellington, New South Wales. To understand the endurance of a man named Henry Gale, we first need to meet the man who found him. Andrew Anderson was a Scottish convert baptised in Edinburgh by Apostle Orson Pratt. He didn't come to Australia as a traditional missionary. He came as an assisted immigrant, seeking a future for his wife and 3 children. When he arrived in Sydney in 1841, he brought little more than his family's belongings and a licence to preach signed by Pratt. Anderson moved his family deep into the interior, settling near Wellington. He lived the hard life of a shepherd, and as he worked, he posted flyers and shared his testimony. Last winter, I preached in the town of Montpelier, where the first night the room was full and some standing out. Slowly, the message took hold. By late 1844, he had organised a branch of 11 members, the very first organised branch of the church on Australian soil. Among those 11 was another shepherd named Henry Gale. The 1840s were years of isolation. There were no chapels, no visiting leaders, and little or no contact with church headquarters. While thousands were joining the church in the British Isles, the Restoration in Australia was a flickering candle in a vast wilderness, tended by a handful of converts. When missionaries finally arrived from Utah in 1851, they went looking for those early saints. Most had drifted away or vanished, all but one. Henry Gale is the only known convert from the 1840s in New South Wales who remained faithful. After his baptism, he moved to Sydney and married Sarah Wills. For 7 long years, they lived with no branch, no meetings, and no instruction. Yet they thrived. Henry transitioned from a shepherd to a successful grocery store owner, and together they welcomed 4 children. We don't know exactly how they kept their faith alive in such isolation, but we do know where it led. In April 1853, Henry and Sarah boarded the ship Envelope with their children, part of the very first company of saints to ever leave Australia for Zion. Now, picture the next scene. It's 1853 in the harsh Californian wilderness. The Gale family has survived the Pacific crossing and are on the overland trek towards San Bernardino. On the second day out, the company stops to rest the teams, and to give the children a break from the wagons, a woman leads a group into the desert to gather wildflowers. Among them, 7-year-old James Gale. James was enjoying himself, but eventually told the group he was heading back to the wagons. On the way, he spotted another bunch of flowers. Even as he heard calls to eat, he wandered further away in search of a better, more appealing bunch of flowers. When he finally looked up, the trail was gone. James later remembered, "This was the first time in my life to be alone, away from the city streets of Sydney." The boy who had navigated the organised blocks of a bustling port city was now utterly lost in an endless desert. Back at camp, dinner was a hurried, communal affair. Then it was a rush to pack up and move on. It was only as families climbed back into their wagons that Sarah Gale's voice rang out, "Where's Jim?" When a search of the wagons yielded nothing, the gravity of the situation set in. Men spread out with lamps. They swept over the ravines as night fell. Morning came, but James did not. This was the American wilderness. No water, cold nights, and predators. By the second day, reality closed in. The water supply was getting very low. About 10 in the morning, a hard yet practical decision was made. The company has to move on. The math is cruel, but clear. Defeated, Henry finally agrees to move on. But Sarah refuses. "I will not leave without my son." As the wagons begin to roll, Sarah's trunk's unloaded and left in the dirt. She sat there in the open wilderness, holding her baby, watching the company pull away. As the company pulls away into the distance, Henry looks back. Sarah is on her knees, praying. In that moment, Henry realized this wasn't just about surviving. He turns his horse around. He rides back to Sarah, attempting to reason with her. Sarah stood up. Her grief had settled into a divine resolve. "If you'll only go a short distance up the ravine and search again," she said, "you will find him." She didn't plead, she testified. They went, not because it made sense, but because her faith demanded it. And there he was. James was walking towards them, sunburnt and exhausted, but alive. And in his hand he was still holding a wilted bunch of wildflowers, the ones he'd picked for his mother. That night, the entire company knelt in prayer. They had watched the parable of the lost sheep unfold in real life. James Gale grew up to spend his life ensuring others didn't get lost. At 20, he served a mission driving ox teams to help other immigrants cross the plains. The boy lost in the wilderness became a guide through it. James went on to help build the community of Snowflake, Arizona. But the legacy itself belongs to Henry and Sarah Gale. Two people who held on when it would have been easier to let go. Their legacy now reaches more than 5,000 descendants. A final thought. I've seen many try to lighten their burden by letting go of their faith, only to find that their faith was actually the strength carrying them. Sarah Gale's life is a testament to this. She didn't just hear the parable of the lost sheep, she lived it, keeping alive a legacy that began with a lone shepherd in New South Wales, Australia, and continues to shine brightly today.